You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, Life Chiropractic College West. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 432 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I am your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Michaela Edwards. And if you want to hear about how chiropractic will become the gold standard of healthcare, stay tuned. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today I have Michaela Edwards coming in today from Kansas City. Is it Kansas or Missouri?
Missouri.
All right. So we got Kansas City, Missouri in the house. I'm coming in from my home, beautiful Grand Junction, Colorado today. And before we get jumping into this episode, I want to give you guys the big why. Dr. Michaela and I were talking about the big why for chiropractors, but I want to let you guys know why Chiro Hustle does what we do. And number one, we protect freedom of speech. Medical freedom is important, and chiropractic, we have to retain the lexicon of chiropractic within the freedom of speech. Number two, we protect the sacred trust. If you guys don't know what that means, go to your favorite search engine and check it out and find out what that means. BJ Palmer Sacred Trust. And then we support subluxation-based chiropractic, innate intelligence, and universal intelligence. And that we believe that when the person gets adjusted, it connects them, the physical, to them, the spiritual. And with that said, Dr. Michaela Edwards, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited for this episode. I met you, where was it? The Wave at Life West.
Yep.
So big shout out to Ron Oberstein and Life West for jumping on and having some connection with us. Actually, we just brought Life West on as one of our newest sponsors.
Nice.
So let's keep it going at the Wave. But your story. Before I jump into your story with you, I'll preface, like I said, off camera, your friends, your family, your colleagues, your patients, your practice members, people that know you, people that don't know you, they're going to hear your story. So I'm really excited to feature you today. And I think one of my favorite questions to always ask is, who is Michaela Edwards and what inspired you to become a chiropractor?
Well, I think, the best and quickest answer to that question is I'm just, nobody trying to tell somebody anything about anything they want to hear. No, I completely start the story and say I'm just an average chick, to be honest with you. I'm just an average woman. I don't necessarily find myself placed on any other category other than just, honestly average. The last 2 years of my life, though, the why has changed as to why I became a chiropractor. But I can tell you back, in 2004, when I decided to go into chiropractic school, I decided that was going to be the quickest way for me to obtain, an advanced degree that would allow me to treat athletes on a different level. That was my goal. It was to actually become a beacon of treating athletes on a completely different level, but also have the respect of being a physician who could, go into private practice and as well as work with either teams, professional teams, and that nature. So that was really my thing then. But now that we fast forward some years after graduating in 2009, and I can tell you that my why has completely changed, because with the changing phase of the world, of humanity, basically, I have realized that my purpose is far larger than anything I could have imagined. But I have had that realization, over the last couple of years. And I can honestly say now my goal is to completely be here for this time of transition, of change, of ascension, of movement of humanity, of ascension of humanity's knowledge and consciousness. That for me has just opened my eyes to I came for this. I came for this era, this time, so that I could utilize a lot of the knowledge that I've been digging. A lot of people have been kind of snoozing and not really, listening or paying too much attention to really what's going on around us from a macrocosmic level. But I have. And so in this day and age, I say I'm here to help usher this profession into the next phase of reality, which will be a whole nother, you'll see a whole nother, civilization, honestly. Because there'll be people with a different mindset. So, at that point, I'm here to adjust whoever wants to hear me and adjust their mental direction by just hearing or receiving what I say. But at the same time, I know that picture is humongous and it's a larger task at hand, and I'm here for it. So when we talk about, shifting a people or a nation or a civilization, it's a huge undertaking. But I think, we all have learned in the last couple of years that there's something bigger to why we're here. So my why has changed drastically, and I'm working in it. So I can say I'm living it and working it, and that's pretty cool. Because I kind of made a decision a couple years ago when I realized my purpose, that I was like, it doesn't matter what it looks like. If y'all think I'm crazy, if you don't like it, if it's totally opposite of whatever, I'm still gonna do it. So I'm just trying to get there.
Well, I think that's really cool. And the strategic group that I'm a part of with you, I think that we're going to do a whole lot together to make the profession go faster and more effective together.
Absolutely.
But I also like this second part question to part one is what makes you unique in this space? And I don't want to tell people what makes you unique because you told me already. And I think that you working with the ABCA makes you super unique, and it gives you a platform to help more people. Would you mind talking about that organization a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the American Black Chiropractic Association has been around since 1985. It was founded by Bobby Westbrooks, who's a chiropractor out of St. Louis, who saw that there was a need for some help, some bringing up, if you will, of the minorities in the profession. So the students were lacking, they needed help, the doctors needed support. And so he created the ABCA as a network to actually bring those doctors together in order to compile information and get everything that we had and disseminate into those students and doctors in the nation that were actually working in the profession. And so over the years, the ABCA has had many initiatives that are specific to what our profession has been experiencing, both on a student level as well as the doctorate level, because we have, about over 250 students nationwide in 14 chapters of student chapters at each school. And, there's 18 schools. So there's a few schools where we don't have a lot of students to form a chapter, but we try to still make a connection. And so for me, the largest thing with the ABCA, it has been my keepsake into the profession, because at a time where I was coming through, again, chiropractic, I don't think I mentioned this before, but chiropractic is my third profession. And so my first profession has always been mortgage and banking and finance, and I've worked in that industry since I was 17 years old. So I've got couple decades worth of experience there in that. And so for me, when I got my chiropractic education, I actually had to make a decision, which way am I going to go? And I saw how much chiropractic school, helps me to work with patients. But as far as the business aspect of things are concerned, I was kind of like, okay, well, I got to do some more research. And so I went back, I found myself back in mortgage and banking, but the ABCA kept me in chiropractic. And so it's really, I always say it's my love story, because the ABCA, it's a beacon. It brings diversity within chiropractic, those issues to the forefront. It helps support and create a network for students and doctors. But for me, it was my lifeline into the profession. A lot of times it was all I had chiropractically, because once I actually finished my postceptorship, I literally went back to work in mortgage, and the only thing I had was the ABCA. And so I was unique in that I could focus on building not only the association, but working on chipping away some of those matters of, initiatives that the association has created or figured we need to work on over the years. that made me a unicorn in that most of the presidents of the association that have come before me, and even now Dr. Childress after me, they were actually full-time working chiropractors where I was not. I was able to literally talk every tick. If I needed to demonstrate an adjustment, got on stage or speak, I could do all of that. I'm just not, it wasn't in practice, but at the same time, it made me a lot more cognizant into the issues that the profession is having and what we need to do to go about changing or shifting into that next era. So that's how I say it kind of just unfolded to me, like, I was holding on, and here we are. The highlight of it would be what the height of one's profession to become the president of a national association in the profession they have. And here I was, and it was 2020. It was a pandemic. George Floyd was killed. Our phones was ringing off the hook. The students were upset. They weren't in school. Everything was awry. And I thought, well, wait a minute. Is this what I came for? And so, I looked at it and I said, okay, you are very unique in that you're not a practicing chiropractor, but you are a president of a national, chiropractic association, and your focus can be on some other things that have been, neglected for so many years, just because our doctors are overworked. They're not enough of us for the patient clientele. I mean, to be honest with you, if we're in the practice, we're practicing. We don't have time to build a profession. We don't have time to, create media, outlets and things of that. And we don't have time to do those things. So again, the strategic plan all dropped in my lap at the same time. And so here I am. And I feel like it was all well orchestrated by a higher order. And that's kind of what makes me unique and why I've just grabbed a hold to it. And I'm just going to ride the wave.
Well, you said a lot of stuff there when I think about what you're able to make an impact with. And, I think a lot of times when people see what we're doing over here with Chiro Hustle, they see the same thing. They see unencumbered force that doesn't have to be in a full-time job, that doesn't have to be, punching a clock from 9 to 5.
Right.
Like, I'm out there almost every weekend at some type of chiropractic event, and I'm rallying chiropractors. And I'm connecting the dots for the future with you guys now. I think that there's a lot to be said for what you're doing. But I think it's really an honor that both of us have this chance to work together now and to get to know each other on this level and to feature you on our show, because I do think that this is a huge megaphone moment for people to be featured on Chiro Hustle, because I do think that we've done something very unique, and it's an honest approach to getting the message out about chiropractic. And I think that what you're doing is everything you're doing is for the right reasons. Yes. I don't think there's any hidden agendas. I think that you just want to be in a leadership position, and you want to use your skill sets to the best of your ability, and you want to help more people rise up and become better chiropractors. And you want to see the profession succeed at a higher level. You want to see utilization go up. You want to see that, the chiropractic profession stays, unsullied. And protected. And I think that those are really important, initiatives, though.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited to have you on, but let's go back to, I know that marketing matters in this profession too. So let's just let's hypothetically say you had a 8th quarter student reach out to you from Logan, your alma mater, and say, hey, Dr. Edwards, I'm, really having a challenge to know what to do to market and to grow my practice and to get people to stay, pay, and refer. What message would you give to them to help them to know that they'll be okay? But what are maybe point A and point B that you tell them to go do right away?
Well, first of all, I would, of course, probe quite a bit, because the way that you market has to be congruent with what your desires are, right? You have to most definitely be able to say, well, I want to treat, I aspire to treat, athletes. If that's the case, then of course you want to look at what you're doing currently and make a decision on what needs to change. So for me, and I can speak to that just because, and I use that as an example, it was my thing. So my thing was sports. How can I get athletes? Well, of course, my undergrad years, and I may be aging myself, but my undergrad was an exercise, sport, and health study, because that was the degree before they started athletic training degrees, right? But they grandfathered us all in and allowed us to be considered athletic trainers, even though that wasn't what was on our degrees. But for me, when I got to Logan, I said, well, how can I got to get these students, I got to get some practice in, right? Because when you go in the student clinic, you got to bring your own patients in. And that was my first time with trying to figure out how I was going to market myself and to get patients to come in. Well, I decided that I guess at this point, I'm going to have to find one of these high schools and go in as the athletic trainer and pull out some patients. And that's exactly what I did. I went straight into my neighborhoods. It was a predominantly Black neighborhood, Ferguson, Missouri. And I went to one of the high schools there, and I was introduced. A classmate of mine was already a trainer there, or he was not working even full time. He was just there helping out another good friend of his who was the head trainer, who wanted to be the athletic director. And next thing I know, I come out as the assistant athletic trainer with the keys to the training room. So I'm like, wow, what do I do with this? So I take those keys and I'm like, I got a call. I'm like, listen, okay, so what are the hours here? What we got? Football, like, what is it? Like, well, every day after school hours. And typically the kids are done at a certain time. And I thought, cool. So I started out in the training room, taping ankles, ice packs, whatever, stretches, whatever, the little athletic training things. And next thing I know, these students are all like, what you think about this? We've never had that. Because I'm doing chiropractic stuff. Like I'm in there practicing orthopedic exams because I might have a test the next day or something. But, and as I'm doing these things, I'm talking, and these students realize that I used to run track in college. So now they're all like, well, the track kids are like, can you teach me how to do this? And can you do that? Next thing I know, I'm in front of parents as a track coach, assistant track coach. So, I talked the tick. I had 2 minutes. I'm like, every last one of your children should get an adjustment. I'm here. Y'all want to send them. Here's where we need to go after practice. These are the days I'm in clinic. And the next thing I know, I was done with those numbers before Try 9 ever started. I was, I had too many patients, because there would be times where the athletes that were a part of that program would actually be sitting in the waiting room. Now, if you got one athlete, he's got 2 parents, you might got a sister or a brother, you might have a whole family. So now instead of having a 12 team, basketball team or 12 person basketball team, now I got like 30 people in the waiting room. Yeah. So I would say be very, very conscientious of what it is that you're marketing, because in whatever manner that you market, listen, you'll be a light that everybody just suctions to if you really are genuine in what you do. So I would tell that student into doctor, I don't know if they were a doctor just graduating, but they really, there's no overnight success. Like you must be able to think and visualize, right, what it is you want first, go to the end game, and then reverse engineer that thing to figure out, okay, well, you're not going to catch an athlete sitting in the clinic. You definitely got to go to where the athletes are. So what do you want? High school, college? Do you want little, recreational? You can go to your local, YMCAs or local community centers, your local libraries, and do a TikTok for, 30 minutes and just see who comes. But there's so many things that we can speak to on trying to flip marketing around. But the number one piece of advice I would give that person would be, you're in control of your career. What you become of it is what you made of it. And vice versa.
Well, I love that one-liner there.
Yeah.
And I tell people, if anybody's listened to me long enough, I tell people this all the time, that it's not what you know, it's who you know, but it's how you treat who you know.
And it's also what you do with the knowledge that you gain.
Yeah. And, it's also about, the learned experiences along the way. And building your network. And a lot of times people always tell you that your network is your net worth.
Right.
And the greater the network that you build, your practice will grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when they know that you can deliver the goods, they're going to tell everybody on the team. They're going to tell everybody at the business. They're going to tell everybody in the grocery line, everybody that goes to the bank, everybody at the cleaner, everybody at wherever they're going. They're like, I got an adjustment from Dr. Edwards, and she helped me with this.
Yep.
And the kids, Dr. Michaela helped me run better.
I'm going to tell you, I still get
that thing that was going on in my hip.
It's gone. I still get that. There were years I was out of St. Louis. I was gone from St. Louis for at least 3, 5, 7 years, and I was still receiving referrals from those parents, right? And some from some of those students who had become college kids and parents themselves, right? Still to this day. So I always say it's what you put in. You know, you're gonna get what you put in. And I would most definitely just always tell people, slow yourself down to a point to where there's nothing else moving around you. You're just breathing, so that you can lock in on those goals and like literally visualize them in your mind, so that you can reverse engineer them and just make your way there. I mean, that's typically how I start every day. You know, okay, I got this, and this on the schedule. I got to do this to get to that. So let me do this now, or plan to do things in a certain order. And before you know it, you don't have to do anything. You've already set the energy, and it's just going to bounce back and come to you tenfold. So I think a lot of what people are misunderstanding is when they first start out and things don't go like they see a lot of docs that are, you know, putting what their successes are out on. So now you got social media and all of that. I think a lot of the people that come out, they don't realize this. I mean, you're on your own. This is what you do. If you plan to go to private practice, I mean, of course, there are those that are working in other, you know, marketing groups or things of that nature, which is fine, but they still have a defined, you know what I'm saying, order that will kind of help them move along. When you want to go into private practice, you have to put in. You cannot take much out if you don't put much in. So it's very important.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, Life Chiropractic College West. Let's hustle.
Well, I talk to people a lot of times about sequence.
Yeah.
That if you break the sequence and you don't follow the sequence properly, you have to go back and repeat steps.
Correct.
So it doesn't matter what it is.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if it's like, trying to go for a drive in your car. If you don't go through the right sequences, you don't get to go driving.
You don't get right. You don't get anywhere.
So if you can break it back down to like the most rudimentary thing, like, using an ink pen. If you don't go through the right sequence the right way, you don't get to write.
Exactly right.
So, I think when it comes to like chiropractic, you got to get the sequencing down of growing the practice the way you want to, like you said, it becomes your identity.
Yep.
And don't give yourself a job you don't want.
Correct. That is correct. Because seriously, it was another wake up. If you are, a student doing a preceptor or a postceptorship, and that 8, 10, 12-hour days that you're doing in the preceptor, postceptorship in the clinic is not going to work for you, because a lot of students find that too, then you literally have to be the one to sit in the room and be quiet to figure out how you're going to make it with this very expensive degree that you just received. Right? You worked your tail off for. What do you do with it? And how can you make the best of it? Right? So you got a plan. Everything starts with a plan. And I just say that's very integral.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back to you, the practitioner, and maybe you could share with our audience today some of the things that you do to stay healthy, because I think that's a big opportunity for people to get to know maybe some things they can do for themselves.
I think number one, what I've learned over the last probably 24 months, to remain healthy physically, you got to remain healthy mentally. So a lot of times that means that you close down your gates and completely find time to settle yourself and be quiet to hear what yourself is feeling, doing, and absorbing all of that energy. So I would say, for me, I completely, I do, like I said, I do a daily meditation. Of course, I eat clean, but to different people, that means different things. So I try not to go down that route. But for the most part, especially over the last couple of years where we've been more sedentary because we've been kind of closed in and, scared to interact, I still take walks. I walk around my neighborhood, of course, every opportunity I get. I love this time of year. It's beautiful outside. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. there's still some color up here in the Midwest in the trees and the and the roughage, but for the most part, I think I've learned that one of the most important aspects of self-care is, like I said, it's mental care, and sufficient rest, because you got to have enough time to kind of reset and kick yourself out of the body, your spirit, to get its own renewal, which is a totally other thing. But the body really going into its, automatic systems of regeneration and, refreshing those cells really can't happen until you get out of the way. So I've learned to start with raising my energy bringing it into my cerebral area, which means you turn everything off in the body. You're not moving, you're not entertaining, you're not looking at something, listening to anything, and literally just bring yourself into your brain to ground, and then go into, okay, what's going on with my big toe? Does that hurt? Is my knee need some attention? And I kind of just hone in those energies, send those energies to that area, those areas that are kind of achy or have any issue that I think are there. Of course, before I can get to a chiropractor, I got to make sure that that's in place. But at the same time, I think that potentially guides the body into doing things that is, not some things that it's able to do when you're working, right? 10 hours a day, when you're focused on something else. You're focused on a job. You're focused on cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the kids. You're focused on, driving, whatever it is, when that stops, that's the point where you want to take control and focus those cells in your body in order to come back to homeostasis so you can heal and respond better to treatment.
Ideally, people should take care of their bodies through getting proper rest and taking some time for themselves to restore their mental clarity.
That is correct. It is vital. I have learned that is probably, I could sit here all day and say, eat this many amounts of calories, work out this many times, do this many sit-ups and push-ups, because I've done all of that before, right? I told you, athletic trainer. I used to be a certified personal trainer as well, like a conditioning coach and then a track coach. All of that, the first thing I would tell a team even today is just sit down and hush. Just be quiet. Sit down and be quiet. Give yourself about 5 minutes. Just sit in total silence. Close your eyes. Blackness, total silence.
And then what's going to happen is they're going to fall asleep.
But even if they fall asleep, they still will have started with the intention of grounding. And if they fall asleep, that means their body needed that sleep, right? Because we're not just out here falling asleep and practice. You know what I mean? So I think that, but it is a thing that you have to consciously take care of yourself. And that is bringing everything back into the mental, because the mental drives everything else. So that's very important. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the next question was specifically made for you and what you're doing right now with your strategic plan. So I'm really curious. I know we got about 4 minutes left of.
Man, you left me 4 minutes.
I know. But where's the profession going? Just let us know a little bit about what you're working on and what you think is happening.
So our profession, like I said earlier, is in the process of shifting into this next era where we will literally, these are my words. I have to disclaim this because I am the chair of one of the work groups in the strategic plan for chiropracticfutures.com. But I have always said, just from my very first initial idea, because I go to the end, I told you, and then I reverse engineer, that chiropractic is moving into a growth spurt, that we will find ourselves in the near future becoming the gold standard of health and wellness in the nation and then in the world. I've seen it. And so I say that without any hesitation that I believe we will be there soon. We will see within the next decade a lot of shifting and uptick of patient knowledge or just public understanding about what chiropractic is, what it means, how it can help you. And then you'll see that our profession will become a little bit more vocal. We've been kind of quiet, if you will, over the last few years, outside of what has, picked up and ticked up in the profession by means of social media. But when you look at it from a true outreach perspective, chiropractic has not really reached the bar to a point to where we could compete, with other, I guess you can say allopathic or other medical modalities, treatments in that nature. So you'll see our profession change to that in the next, I would say be starting it really with now, but in the next decade, you'll see much more from chiropractic period in the public domain. So that will increase the uptick of patients. That will increase the number of potential career paths, because of course, as we are exposing ourselves as chiropractors to the craft, the art, science, and philosophy of chiropractic, we also are exposing people to the opportunity of a career path in chiropractic. And so there we will see, an increase in enrollment, hopefully across the board in our schools. And from there, we'll have a more diverse field of chiropractors, chiropractic students, and those doctors will graduate and become chiropractors in the realm to treat the masses of our growing diverse nation. But again, chiropractic fitting into one of those 7 pillars. And I know we don't have time to talk about it here, maybe on another call, but I always have lectured on the 7 pillars of society, and where we fit in is the social organizations of things within the microcosm, the small organizations and industries that make up societies, medical, policing, local government, etc. Hospitals fit there. And so that's kind of where we've been tucked, only because hospitalization and the medical industry has been the gold standard in health and wellness in our system for centuries. And so I think as we shift into a more naturopathic approach, you'll learn that, we'll kind of shift the whole paradigm in the way that our citizens are even thinking once they get off of a chiropractic table. It's like, oh man, that can do that. Oh, okay. Well, what else you got? And then it opens the door for more naturopathic approach to holistic living. And before you know it, to maybe 1 or 2 more decades from that, which will be 20 to 30 years from now, you'll see a society of people that are living much better. They're much more well. They don't have a lot of the pharmaceutical, pushing that we've seen over the last however many decades, out there. And you'll end up seeing that patients become, not just a patient, it's a family. So now they got their whole family involved in this. And next thing you know, chiropractic is the gold standard, because if I get a sniffle or if there's a pandemic they're talking about, the first thing I'm thinking about calling is my chiropractor to see what I can do in order to help, pad myself in a wellness manner, naturopathically, so that I can ensure that those things don't affect me. And then you can kind of just, address that issue and then move on and live your best life of wellness and health. And so we'll see that happen on the massive standpoint, in the next 20, 30 years. But we are on our way. No matter what happens, we're going up and we're making it. We will be the gold standard of health and wellness in this nation. I have no doubt. So that's where we'll be. I think I did in 42 seconds over, but that was it.
Dr. Michaela, thank you for being episode 432. It was a real honor to share your message with our audience today. If people want to find you or work with you or know more about you, where can we send them to? You
can go straight to abcachiro.com. And that's a quick way to find me. I'm on the leadership page there as immediate past president. So all you have to do is click on the leadership page and click to contact me, and I can get an email there. That's the easiest way. Otherwise, you'll have to learn how to spell my name at some point. And that's always crazy. But yeah, or, most definitely, I always say Dr. M.E. Edwards at ymail.com is my email address. I do have a website, elitewellness.com. So you most definitely can go there and contact me through that as well, that contact page as well. But I am here for it. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. Thank you for doing what you do. Glad I could be a part.
Thank you so much. And I want you to have a great rest of your night down there in Kansas City, Missouri.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to sign off here from beautiful Grand Junction, Colorado. And I'll tell everybody out there, you guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. Thank you, Dr. Michaela.
Thank you.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.